Welcome to HCC 50 Years and Counting. I'm Todd Duplantis with HCC TV. Houston Community College is celebrating its 50th anniversary in 2021, and we're focusing now on a series which will look back over the college over the last 50 years through the eyes of administrators, faculty, staff, and of course former students. Joining me now for one of our first shows is Dr. Cheryl Peters. Welcome to the show, and thanks for joining me here today.
Thank you, Todd.
Now, you're currently the Interim Associate Vice Chancellor for Curriculum and Learning Initiatives, but you've been here more than 46 years, you're telling me, and you started off as an interim.
I started out as an adjunct faculty member the very first semester that the system offered academic classes.
Okay.
In the fall of '71, they offered only vocational technical classes, but in the spring, they offered academic classes, and I taught an English 1301 course at Bel Air High School in the evening.
Because this was back before the college had dedicated buildings. We just separated from HISD, I imagine.
Yes.
And classes were being held, I heard, in malls and strip centers and high schools, as yours was.
Right. High schools, I taught at Sharpstown. I spent some time at Waltrip High School. I spent time at Paul Revere, Westchester.
Wow. You made the tour.
I made the tour, and I kind of, when Sharpstown opened as a major campus, I pretty much stayed at Sharpstown High School for about 5 years until I came full-time.
Community colleges, were they looked at a lot differently back then than they are now? Were they considered more vocational, whereas people, you wanted to send them off to a traditional university over a community college?
Right. I mean, I really don't think they had the legitimacy that they do now.
Sure.
The universities kind of look down on us, and we're so lucky to have in Houston a really rich, educated populace. We definitely did then. I came from away, as many other people did. I was almost finished with a dissertation in English literature.
Right.
And so a bunch of us kind of got the opportunity to be hired on full-time at a community college, and we viewed it as a wonderful opportunity to jump into the higher ed market.
Did you imagine you'd be here 46 years
Never,
later?
never. I always knew, well, I knew I wanted to teach. I actually had a full-time assistant professorship at Eastern Kentucky University before I came here. But we moved here for work, and it was just time. I had a child, and working with a community college was a kind of perfect venue for me to work in the evenings. My husband would come home from his job during the day, watch the children, and it was just a great opportunity. And honestly, the students that we had, even from the very beginning, were excellent students. I just can't say how well prepared they came to work with us. And you know, sometimes today I feel like we're even more challenged because the students who came to us at the beginning were very prepared for college level work.
Moving on from adjunct into full-time faculty, I imagine you went on to full-time faculty.
Yes.
When did you get into administration, and how did you make that jump?
Basically, I joined the English department in '83, and I was always looking for innovative things to do when I was in the department. I helped develop our women's lit curriculum. I chaired and worked on a program called Writing Across the Curriculum, which really kind of led into working with the core curriculum. But I joined administration full-time in 1991. At that time, the college, which had been one entity, was broken apart into 6 different individual colleges.
What was that like when the college was broken apart into 6? Was that confusing at first? Were there goals set clearly for you?
Well, in many ways it was very exciting because it offered the opportunity for many more people to assume some leadership positions. And it also gave more people to become college presidents and deans. And I felt that as a female at the time, it was an opportunity for women to start, you know, getting some of these jobs. And in fact, that's exactly what did happen. But when we went to the various colleges, there was a huge emphasis on the diversity in the administration, and we had that. We could make that happen without even necessarily going outside to hire. So I really found it to be a very exciting time, and I became, first of all, an assistant dean of arts and sciences at the Central College, and that sort of became my home college from 1991 on until our most recent transformation.
Back in the early 80s, how had the goals of Houston Community College shifted as opposed to now?
I think we weren't as interested in the earliest years on really big-time university transfer. We also just didn't have as many unique and different opportunities as we do today in workforce and everything. I mean, we have truly grown up. The universities are really courting our students today. They're all competing over, where we're going to send our graduates. And I think our graduates just have a different level of accomplishment. I could say one of the most exciting things that I had the chance to do was to help develop our honors colleges.
Right, which you're doing
and
now.
Which I'm still
Sure.
doing now. And our students are just outstanding individuals. And we have sent them on to so many excellent schools and universities all over this country. And in the past now 12 years, many of them have graduated from medical school. They're in law school. They're doing the kind of jobs that have really distinguished us in our early work with them. So HCC, I think, just has an enormous array of opportunities for all types of students, and I'm very proud of us for doing that.
We're talking with Dr. Cheryl Peters, Interim Associate Vice Chancellor of Curriculum and Learning Initiatives here at Houston Community College. We're talking about Houston Community College in the past, in the present. We'll talk about it in the future. We're going to bring on with Dr. Peters in a few moments, one of our college presidents, and we hope you'll join us when we return on HCC 50 Years and Counting. I'm Todd Duplantis. We'll be right back.
We have academic programs that help students get from high school into a university. And the data is very clear that students that take the path of a community college finish in far higher numbers than students that start straight into a university experience. Our students can achieve a baccalaureate degree in multiple fields from the universities in the area without ever leaving Houston Community College.
HCC. So many reasons, so little tuition. Register today at hccs.edu/now.
Welcome to HCC 50 Years and Counting. Welcome back to the show. I'm Todd Duplantis. I'm joined by Dr. Cheryl Peters, the Interim Associate Vice Chancellor of Curriculum and Learning Initiatives. And right now we're joined by Dr. Zachary Hodges, the President of Northwest College. Thanks for both of you for being here today. Dr. Peters, we were talking earlier about your past with HCC, and Dr. Hodges, you've been here for 42 years. We want to bring you into the conversation. We were talking about how colleges were looked at as vocational colleges, community colleges back then, and that wasn't looked at as much as it is today. Maybe you could talk about what it was like back then.
Well, you know, I'm reminded of vocational schools and the whole stigma attached to that. and the concept of terminal degrees. You know, you still hear some of that language that, you can go get this certificate and then go to work. You can get an associate degree of applied science and go to work. But in today, you know, those are not terminal degrees. They're stackable kinds of degrees where you can continue on and get your bachelor's degree. That really wasn't happening back when Houston Community College was evolving. So a lot of people did see, well, 2 can't be as good as 4, and so it's a little bit less. However, with the focus on workforce now and the wide range of skills that you need and that you will continue to need in an evolving economy, it's a whole different story.
You're the president of Northwest College now, but how did you start here?
I started as a counselor. I was the first campus-based counselor at Houston Community College. My first assignment was at Central in our old health careers. I had a classroom that I shared with faculty, and that was only for the summer. And 1 month after I was here, we had this torrential flood, and my car flooded out front, which should have been a wake-up call for me about Houston. But then I went out to our first day campus in Cypress Fairbanks, and it was a day facility, academic and some workforce programs. And so I was the first campus-based counselor at Houston Community College.
So both of you started full-time, I imagine, at the Central College. Did it look anywhere near, I imagine the Sanjak building was there and some of the auditoriums, but did it look anywhere near what it's like today?
Well, I can say one thing. There were 2 big wings that were attached on either side of the building, and they didn't look anything like the elegance of the San Jacinto building, which is really an enormously beautiful building and especially so functional since its renovation. But there were the 2 big wings. They were really very ugly. The Whiteley building was built, I think, sometime during the early time period, because J.B. Whiteley, one of our first presidents, who was and instrumental in starting HCC, and he was a shop man. He really wanted, and that building became the place for our workforce programs. But since then, the type of workforce programs that we have now and all over the system, for example, the 2 biggest ones at Central are really the Institute of Fashion Design, Fashion and Interior Design, and a culinary arts program. These are both fabulous programs where many people come back to school even to do second careers. So now we still have HVAC and plumbing and some manufacturing at Central as well. So we're not neglecting those programs, but I'm just saying there's a wide range. And even at Zach's college, they have a very interesting digital communication program too.
It's a different day.
Media arts. It's a totally different day.
Speaking of totally different day, we're at the start of a new semester right now. And what blows my mind with colleges is how simple the registration process is now. I remember when I registered, you'd have to go stand in the gymnasium at U of H, and we'd get in line, they'd put a sticker on your card, and at the end you'd go pay their bill, and your bill, and it would depend on how many stickers you had on your card. Talk about registration when y'all were first here. Zach, maybe you can kick it off.
Well, in the fall of 1976, we did not have computers. So I was the only counselor. And then the faculty by division would line up, and they had tallies.
Yeah.
I don't know if you pulled a card. I don't even think you pulled a card. I think you kept a registration and you had tallies. But, I want to say something about that. I was the counselor, and so I advised students. Then they went down the row with our faculty, and then they went and they paid. It really did work. It was a great process, mainly, and it's always at HCC been about the people, the quality of the people. I'm reminded with Cheryl, Dr. Peters, and her excellent academic reputation, and how folks like her, although we've never worked together, we've had the same colleagues that were just the the epitome of academic excellence and expectations. And that's the way it was back then. It was pretty rough. Didn't have very many students at that point in time. The first campus, I think, first semester we enrolled about 250 students, and that was our first day campus.
Was there a time early on where you thought, this just isn't working out? What are we going to do? Was that time where you questioned where the college was going in the early days?
I just want to jump in and say, I always loved my job. I loved teaching. They could have put me in barracks. They could have put me in a classroom that flooded. Right. I've taught literally at 10 or 12 different locations around the city, and it didn't matter whether it was a high school or a dual credit thing during the day. Excuse me. Just the opportunity to work with people that wanted to better their lives. And during this time, we saw big immigrant waves come through. There were Nigerian students, all the Vietnamese students that came through. It was a thrilling time, even in the 70s and early 80s, to just be able to have the opportunity to educate so many different people.
And HCC now has the largest international student body literally across the country. This start in the 70s and 80s?
Yeah, it did. It sure did. I think that we have always reflected the population of Houston.
Yeah.
So I was out in the suburbs at that point in time, but we had our fair share of African American, Hispanic students, nothing like the diversity that we see today. But HCC has always reflected, I think, the population that we serve. I want to go back, though, and talk about, we always did more with less.
Right.
But there was always this sense of optimism.
There was,
and
tremendously.
Commitment that we all worked together in a team-like fashion to do with what we could. I'm reminded that as I went up the channels, I complained about, as a campus director, I complained to our vice president, Brett Ryan, about that. I said, this place needs to be painted. And he said, well, I'll buy you the paint. And so the faculty, the staff, and probably some students, we painted the inside of the campus. There was always that sense of commitment and optimism.
And I wanted to say, it lets you know that the college is not really the facilities. The college is the students and the faculty and all the administrative staff that help support that. Now, in the name of students, we have asked for better and better facilities, because maybe we were willing in the early days to put up with, a lesser than. But today, I think we have wonderful facilities for students, and it's in their name that we want safe, clean, lovely spaces to study and work in. And I think we're at a point where we've delivered on that.
I do too, absolutely.
Well, it says a lot for an institution, because I was at the awards luncheon the other day, the appreciation luncheon from the employees. Right. And so many employees over 20 years, over 25 years, 30 years, 35 years. Even though it's 35 years, you've really been here for 42. 46, yeah, and it says a lot for people that are sticking around. Dr. Peters, I want to thank you for joining us today. Dr. Hodges, stick around with us. We'll have more with you. And we'll have more in HCC 50 Years and Counting. I'm Todd Duplantis. We'll be back shortly.
We have academic programs that help students get from high school into a university. And the data is very clear that students that take the path of a community college finish in far higher numbers than students that start straight into a university experience. Our students can achieve a baccalaureate degree in multiple fields from the universities in the area without ever leaving Houston Community College.
Did you know that Houston Community College has the largest enrollment of online community college students in the United States? Hi, I'm Paul Calhoun. The HCC Online College proudly enrolls over 20,000 students. We offer more than 30 online degree and certificate programs, as well as online student services, including admissions, advising, counseling, and technical support. HCC Online College, anywhere, anytime. For more information, visit our website, hccs.edu/online.
Welcome back to HCC 50 Years and Counting. We're in the HCC TV Podcast TV studios. Thanks for joining me. I'm Todd Duplantis, and I'm joined by Dr. Zachary Hodges, the president of Northwest College. Thanks for being here today.
Good to be here.
And we're talking about the history of HCC, or at least for the past 42 years you were here.
43.
43 years,
43,
I apologize.
yeah.
43 years. And you started
June 1,
as,
1976.
and you started as a counselor in the 70s.
Yes.
How did that prepare you getting started? Because I know another college president that did the same thing, went the same route. How did it prepare you for where you are now?
Well, interestingly enough, my training was as a marriage and family therapist and systems therapy. And so, being a counselor and, working with people made it a lot easier to be a college president and to understand how kind of people work and how systems work.
Right.
And I think it served me well. I think it's been a great background. Being in student services always gave me a lot of flexibility. I remember as a counselor, I tell this story, I'm kind of notorious about working outside my job description. So I hadn't been a counselor out at our South Fair campus for 6 months when, for some reason or another, I ended up out in Katy ISD and talked to them about doing college option courses after school. So, what a counselor was doing out in Katy, 20 miles away, visiting with the principal and the superintendent about that, it was just kind of the natural thing to do. I don't even remember why I was there, but we've now had a history of working with Katy ISD since 1979. So again, that's gotten me in trouble a lot of times working outside my job description, but that was a good one.
But that history has helped you now because we've just announced the West Houston expansion into Katy, and that's briefly tell us about what we can see with that.
Well, we're, Houston is growing in lots of different directions, but especially in the West. And so I think it's smart. We have been in 3 different locations out in Katy, at Park 10, then at now at Fry Road, which has been very successful. Now we're moving in farther west out to co-locate with the University of Houston to do the first 2 years of their work at our Katy campus. So we'll be close. I'm also over our A-Leaf campus now, and I'm so proud of that facility and our Spring Branch facility, which has done really well, and Bissonnette, which is our Career and Training Center.
And you mentioned U of H in Katy, which we're going to have a partnership with. In fact, we've got so many partnerships here at HCC. It's so simple for a student to come in, get a 2-year degree, and really stay at the same campus and go on to Texas A&M or UT Tyler through the engineering programs. Did you imagine 43 years ago that was going to be the norm with these partnerships?
No, it's interesting. The universities at that point in time were a different silo than the community college. Even though our students transferred, it's interesting. You can really talk to any family in Houston, and at some point in time, they've had a connection with Houston Community College for
Absolutely.
1 course, 5 courses, or so forth, and then continued on to the university. But it wasn't as clear about transferability. The
Right.
universities kind of played that close to the vest. They were a little bit, saw us as a competitor. Well, now they see us as an ally. Our students are, because of affordability issues, because of the types of students we have, they're much more likely to stay at home. So if the university is here rather than in Tyler or at Texas A&M in College Station, even the University of Houston Central College expanding out to Katy, they're going where the students are.
Well, they're going where the students are, but they're also making it easier for students, because I know
Much
myself,
easier,
when
absolutely.
I took about a semester and a half of courses I didn't really need, and I still had to pay those courses off. And now we're working to change all that with students.
Yes, great partnerships with the University of Houston Victoria, the University of Houston downtown, College of Engineering, Cullen College of Engineering, A&M. You know, there's aligned curriculums. It's really obvious to students, if you do this, then you can go to this. So, and that makes it so much easier for Houston. You know, we have even done a better job as far as internally at HCC, telling students these are the classes you need. We don't want you wasting your time. We want you aligned and on your way out to whatever your next goal is, whether it's workforce or the university. And HCC's done a great job in that over the last 3 to 5 years of aligning our students with their curriculums and then moving them on into the workforce or to a university.
If you could think of one thing or one concept that's changed the most since you've been here, what would that be?
I think we've kept our focus on student success. I think we've become much more sophisticated in our software, of course, our registration systems, our financial aid processes. Our financial aid process is a lot different than it used to be. Students are, if they will follow instructions, have a clear pathway into financial aid, and through our foundation getting scholarships. There's no reason that money should be a barrier for students attending Houston Community College. It didn't used to be that way.
So at one time it was more of a barrier, and it was more difficult for students to get these loans and grants?
Yes, absolutely. Just need to start early enough. That's why we're reaching down into the high schools to prepare those students. Get your financial aid, get your shot records and so forth, get your registration done before you leave high school. And then opening the door to our other citizens, education is lifelong learning, and so we need everyone to participate to their maximum potential. And that's going to be through Houston Community College.
It used to be you just open up the back of the newspaper or you pick up one of those things about leisure learning. You hear about all the courses. Now it's a real thing where people are not just doing leisure learning. They're getting certifications, so they may want to go back in the workforce at a later age. I imagine that's something you didn't see before, too.
This 21st century workplace requires you to continue to learn, continue to expand your skill set, but also to change your mindset. And HCC is addressing that as well. Really proud of the work that HCC is doing. A lot more sophisticated than it was in 1976.
Absolutely. Dr. Zachary Hodges, president of Northwest College, thanks for joining me today on the show.
Good to be here.
And thank you for being here. We'll see you again on HCC 50 Years and Counting. I'm Todd Duplantis. The celebration of the 50th anniversary of Houston Community College is in 2021. We'll have this show on through then. I'll see you next time.